Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Parts of the meeting. Today we are meeting on a Section 31 reconsideration of the development approval conditions for the proposed mixed-use development at Lot 50, premises in Penton Avenue, Fairmont. I'd like to start by making a brief statement. This afternoon's meeting the Parts Meeting does grant the Commission temporary decision-making powers to determine proposals that can generate investment in the state to assist with economic recovery crisis of COVID-19. Part 17 of the legislation does disclose upon the Commission that receive unlimited discretion, whether the discretion must be exercised responsibly. Under the Act, the Commission must have due account for the purpose and intent of the local planning scheme, local planning policies, the need to ensure orderly and proper planning, and the preservation of the amenity and locality, the need to facilitate development in response to the economic effects of COVID-19, and any relevant state planning policies and other relevant WAPC policies. The Commission today has the option to affirm, vary, set aside the decision and substitute a new decision. And this is a considerable responsibility which the Commission takes very seriously. I've advised observers that Commission members may refer to technical devices, laptops and phones throughout the meeting to assist them in considering information for them. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing on the Commission's website and via the YouTube channel. And on behalf of the Commission, the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage will respond to any legal issues arising. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the lands of the Noongar people of the Whadjuk of the Noongar Nation and pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend solidarity and hope for the best and dignified future for us all. In relation to item 1.2, we do have some apologies today, and so we have attending in person myself, Commissioner Adair, Commissioner Lakey and Commissioner Brooks. Commissioner Bennett is joining us online, and we have observers, Damien Hills and Martin from Jura and Martin from Transport. Apologies, on a leave of absence, we have WAPC Chairman. We have an apology from Commissioner Hall, apology from Commissioner Heron due to conflict of interest, and apologies from Commissioner Sanders for absence. In relation to item 1.3 disclosure of interests, we do have a disclosure from Commissioner Heron, and that is an actual impartiality interest. Commissioner Heron has advised that he is an employee of Purpose, who is the applicant on this proposal, and he has recused himself from this voting accordingly. Item 1.4, declaration of due consideration. And all members please indicate that they have received and considered the agenda and hearing today's meeting. Thank you all very much. And item 4.1.4, questions from members and responses from the staff. There was two questions. Question by myself on the public access to the library forecourt. Thank you very much for that. I accept that answer, and that's still helpful in terms of consideration of that matter. And we also have had a question from Commissioner Bennett in relation to the commercial parking ratio in the town's precinct structure plan. Commissioner Bennett, are you satisfied with the response from the department in that question?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair, and thank the officers for the response.
We will now go to deputations and presentations, and we do have deputations today from those the joint deputation from the representatives of the town of Fairmont, as well as a deputation.
I welcome everyone that are present today to make a deputation. You will be invited to join the table to deliver your deputation. You have been advised of your allocated time, which will be managed by a timer, which will appear on the screen. There are no alert tones at the moment, so please watch your time on the screen. We have a PowerPoint presentation from the town of Claremont, and we'll put the presentation on the screen, and you can advise as you wish to advance your slides. I call a great slot from our lawyers, David Lincoln from the town of Claremont, Councillor Paul Kelly from the town of Claremont, and Mayor Dr. Barker from the town of Claremont. You can commence your deputation.
Thank you.
Right, welcome. You have 8 minutes to go to the point.
Thank you. Two things about the town's submission. Firstly, the commission's reconsideration would have to be carried out on various time of the reconsiderations, that means applying the law, planning framework of WAPC. And the second thing, it shouldn't be controversial, so the commission does have the power to refuse the development entirely on reconsideration, notwithstanding that conditions. Written submission gives them detail, but I do not accept the support that it is only the commission to consider fresh. What is controversial about the town cities is that the commission should exercise in this case. So I would accept that should only be done where or unusual cases where that is justified. But the town says this is such a case. Fundamentally, that's because when the initial approval was granted, no way to walk the city to the town centre construction. Whereas now that such a plan is in operation, the construction plan together with our first volume 2, or the principal elements of the planning framework is understood. Council's bonus tax bill is hypothetically proposed under one construction plan and also in some ways reconsideration. That's because the commission required the town to ensure. The agenda report says while it's open for commission to consider the application of fresh, that should be limited to situations where condition might be so closely tied to the approval that it would what the commission also funding information to be developed. That I don't argue that in part, that's right. The commission could refuse where change the conditions on the budget or fails. Main process. It's not changing the condition, which justifies it. It's changed the fundamental aspect of the framework. So if that change, which is the justification, and that change is something which the commission has only itself not. So if this application was a new application coming to you the first 1 day of approval of wood, so to expect you've got extraordinary for it to receive approval on the current policy, but it would not be on the system. The grant approval to the development so far now performance. Building part of the population seems to apply to the structure plan, which then inform architects and expectations from the site. Is a town effective city set because why refuse to receive a decision.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Setting aside the reason matters for mind, I'd like to address the parking shortfall. Acknowledging the ability of the Commission to support the parking concessions and related cash and order contributions is not considered appropriate as it is inconsistent with the provisions of the LDS regulations and the local campaign scheme. The established approach would be to apply the parking calculations based on the town's use by plans.
The purpose of ceremony of public works. One proposed reasonably calculated.
Have I got a few more seconds?
Yes.
Thank you. The established approach would be to apply the parking calculations based on the county construction planning requirements for non-residential development of 148 square metres for area. The report initially appears to accept this approach, but then preferences consistency with the parking requirements established in the Baby Terrace Group. The town has two concerns relevant to this approach. Firstly, that approval followed the SPC's decision to support final approval of construction planning, subject to the inclusion of the Commission's draft parking guidance document requirements. It was also before the approved structure plan established the new non-residential parking requirement of 188 square metres, having regard to an assessment of the parking plans in the town centre as provided by those guidelines. Secondly, the parking requirement combined with the Commission's minimum requirement of 100 square metres for secondary centres and the town's LPS 3 parking concessions. The two parking standards are totally unrelated and arguably apply many of the same considerations. Essentially, the decision doubly dipped on the concessions available. Given the above, application of a greater weighting to the 10-40 Bayview Terrace parking requirements is respectfully considered inappropriate. In the interest of ordering proper planning, the current decision should apply to improved parking ratio for the town centre and a cash move parking contribution of 330,500. The non-applies approach will confer a commercial advantage on the developer and deny the town the capacity to collect the rightful amount of cash and move for the parking shortfalls, essentially deferring the responsibility of providing the remaining commercial parking requirements for the local community. As you can all appreciate, this approval and the application of appropriate standards is a complex matter, given the development planning framework, which was progressed in close consultation with the Department and the Commission. The town now seeks your support in applying the requisite standards to the development. In conclusion, it's requested that the Commission acknowledge the approved planning framework by either refusing to grant approval for the development, or at the very least by requiring the framework's parking and cash and move standards to be applied to this decision.
Look, I'd like to say that the town is not opposed to density, and that's been verified by our support of the Terrace Hotel, which is really this application. The Blackburn development and obviously the 2030 total, we are probably the only municipality in the metropolitan area to meet it up to exceed that target. This application was considered during the process, clearly applies within the town. Probably scant regard to private planning, and density alone doesn't equal private planning in my view. It's a COVID classic. It's all about height and yield. It's not about a particular design feature. It's a box tower for dwellings. That's the context of it. So the crisis is not in availability in improvements. The crisis is actually in labour and materials. So we shouldn't be looking at the application in the context of the yield. The WAPC approved our PSP, our infrastructure plan, in conjunction with, we worked very cooperatively, I think, with WAPC development of that. And so, as Mr. Slark has already indicated, the current proposal is a long way from that document. So we are very strongly of the view that given my earlier comments about considering prices, that would be reconsidered and it should be rejected. The other element I really want to talk about was the benefit in relation to a small area of unmanned development. And this is in the context of a transport orientated development where we've got parking. The applicant is now seeking to have 2 parking bays per dwelling, some for development, which is just inconceivable with a tidal type development. It is literally 10 metres from the bus stop on Stella Park. It is 150 metres from a bus terminus and a railway line. If public transport could not be closer to this development, so it's just beyond belief that these parking bays are now going to be offset effectively by cash and lieu paid to the town. Obviously, the yield from the sale of the property is greater. It will provide additional car parking bays, and it's cheaper to be for town. Cash.
Councillor Kelly, just to recommend so if we could just conclude the comment.
Okay. If I could just conclude by saying that having an easement is a benefit as opposed to freehold titles is a very different economic outcome. It also restricts the utility that benefit. The developer obviously, I don't know, we employees have put the soil water tanks before we do condition. But it seems that they now want to put stormwater tanks in what we're going to be for the whole town. That does impact on not only the economic value to the town, but also the utility value for that community benefit, such as big root trees in the cannabis.
Second one point. Yes, that's not. Well, now we're. Commissioners. Okay, thank you very much for your assessment. Praise to what you say. Okay, we now will be from, we have two Daltons and vaccine image from Purpose and Kennedy from the. You're not going to be very careful about the equivalent time.
Good evening, commissioners, and thank you very much for the invitation to the talk today. This is a project which we will be looking at. This isn't a request to change development in a way that's utterly more like more things. It's about actually getting the detailed documentation phase of the project and tying up a few little things about the project, which we didn't get to last time. So, firstly, if you could just progress to the next slide, I'd just invite Eddie, the landowner, to discuss where he's been the last year and what he's been up to on the site, trying to progress this forward in the spirit of shovel readiness and progressing the development, which is what we're running with 517 years.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I'm Ken, representative from the Development Curator. This year has been basically a 6-year journey into a thorough and rigorous planning and facilitation involving all the stakeholders in the community, including the town of Cleveland. Since the approval of the development last year, our project team, comprising over 50 specialist consultants, engineers, architects, and other advisors, have been working non-stop to finalise the design documentation to construction. We've completed an ECI build tender process and have awarded the contract in early September last month, with the intent to commence construction middle of next year. We've already engaged critical subcontractors, formwork contractors, facade engineers, facade fabricators, molding details, key critical subcontractors that we've engaged earlier on in the process. This is what we've already undergone. We're starting the process already. All of our marketing collateral are now currently on printers, preparing for project launch in November this year. We currently have invested over $6 million into this project in preparation for construction in the middle of next year. This small project, as the town of Cleveland has mentioned, will invest more than $130 million into the economy, support 174 direct jobs during the construction phase, house a future resident population of at least 150 people, create 1,200 square metres office space, generate approximately $235,000 of revenue to the town of Claremont, another few $100,000 to water rates, and it's anticipated to add an additional $3.5 million per year of retail expenditure to the catchment area of the wider Claremont. This development will breathe new life to the heart of Claremont's town centre, incorporating new and exciting retail and dining venues, enhance activation of the town square, and provide a safe pedestrian walkway between Stirling Highway and the Claremont Station along Church Lane, which is currently non-existent at this present time. This is truly a landmark development with a slender, beautiful modern design that will bring people back into the town centre of the town of Claremont to live, work and play. Currently, the people that know the area, a lot of the majority of the activation is within the Claremont borders. I have aimed this development to try and bring people out of the Claremont borders and to activate the entire town square, the town centre. So I look forward to working with the community to bring this project to life. I'll now hand over back to Tim to provide some clarity on some of the changes.
Thanks, Ken. So essentially what we could be topping out this development as part of this process. We're not changing anything manifestly changes what's been approved in the development in any particular substantive way. It's about the bits that fundamentally keep the idea of both together. And we can talk through all the conditions, but to be clear, we're happy with the recommendations we've provided. We think the characterisation of the proposal in the agenda is clear. So in the interest of time, I think we'll just focus on the car parking, which is the area that I'm most concerned with. In progress to the next slide. Thank you to Councillor Kelly for telling us how great of a Todd this place is. Unfortunately, the bus stop at Fundamentally doesn't exist anymore. It hasn't operated for 2 years. But it does connect up, because all those routes now connect up with train stations. So you have a train at 6-minute headways, and then 12-minute headways to the airport. I challenge anyone to say this is a better Todd than anywhere in Perth. It is the best Todd in Perth. I catch the bus from my home, we catch the circuit through it, we catch the train all the time, and more and more people are doing so. Next slide. What this is about is talking about is creating safe public places, and we're not here to execute the argument of proposed. We don't think that's at play. What we are trying to say is, if they work hand in glove with people driving along us to the centre. If you go to the next slide, we've been through the mediation process, and we've come back to the point of real concern and contention still is the resident visitor bays. We're compliant with the other bays, but what one more slide, please. But what we're talking about is the resident visitor bays, and one more slide, please. The resident visitor bays aren't used.
We don't need to rush. We need the time.
Okay. Okay, great.
Time will just sit, so whatever we want to.
Thank you. So basically, what we know is parking, residents visitor parking in the town centre is relevant. This proposal has 4 basements. You can imagine someone, if they need to nip back out the soccer train, they're not going to go right down the basement 4 again. They're going to park in the visitor bay and they go out again. So the visitor bays aren't for specifically need developments. As anyone who's lived in stuff developments before, they're kind of used as de facto second bays, or they're used by people who can't be coming down to their basements. What is effective is when they're used for trade people and cleaners and other people coming into your flat. So we've allocated 2 bays as trade bays. It's kind of misrepresented as something different to visitor bays. They are visitor bays. They'll be managed and curated by the strata body. And that's so if you have someone coming, you know they have someone to park, and they can allocate that day at time, and it's there again. And they can utilise that through a booking system, but it's not there because you're just nipping in and you want to use most convenient bays. Victoria have changed all their planning legislations around visitor parking bays. So if you're within 400 metres of a metropolitan station, you don't have to provide any residential visitor bays. City of Subiaco, which is a secondary centre, which isn't a fantastic plot as Glenwood is, has no requirement for residential visitor bays. In Canning Bridge Precinct has no requirement for residential visitor bays. And Claremont is, as we have heard, a fabulous plot, and we want to be part of that. So if you go to the next slide, our calculations, we don't think residential visitor bays should be applied. And if you look to the R codes, the actual word of the R codes, while there is a numeracy thing that applies to the whole state for any development, but the element objective says car parking provisions is appropriate to the location. With reduced parking possible in areas that are highly walkable and or have good public transport or cycle networks and are close to employment centres. I say we tick those boxes. So in the purpose of the residential visitor parking, we think that the zero tick there should be 0, and therefore the cash in lieu number should be 0. What we're happy to do is we're happy to accept a cash in lieu proposal based upon the provision of taking away accounting for the 2 trade bays provided, which are visitor bays, and then working back from there. If you go to the next slide, the scheme does have a provision for a reduction factor, which we meet. So if you take the 30% reduction factor, yes, it is allocated to non-residential bays, but we believe visitor bays operate in the same manner as non-residential bays in the sense that they're all visitors. A car bay is a restorative of the car. A residential visitor car bay, your car might be there all week, unless you have to go to some other place to take your son or daughter to Austin. That's storing your car. That's not kind of anything. That's about being able to live a normal life in Perth. What is part of tendency is the use of visitor bays and non-residential. So what we're saying is, if you apply the 11.5, round up to 12, take away the 2 bays that are provided, and then provide the reduction factor of 30, it gets to 70. The car parking rate, which is agreed, is $19,500, gets us $137. So we suggest that's the number for the cash in lieu, and we'd be prepared to go with that. As for any of the other conditions, happy to answer questions in my opening class.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I'll now go to Commissioner questions. Thank you. Commission members, any questions for the applicant? I don't think that the position on parking is well understood and it's very detailed in the report, but I did just want to pick up on a question that has come from the town. Councillor Kelly did raise the issue of the stormwater that's now there, which is now going to and query the original plan was for drainage.
Yeah, sure. Well, we hadn't got to that point. And as with anyone developing scouting, we've done a lot of work preliminary work to understand it. And we were looking to connect into the city stormwater network, which doesn't exist in the capacity wide. So we had to have a different solution to that, and that's through the work that Kenny's been doing for the last year to actually understand the details so we deal with that. There's cap rock when we get down to digging 4 bases, we get to stone, to limestone. So there wasn't a possibility to do that. At the same time, we had suggested that can still save, but we've got put our stormwater underneath the public square, because it was a library. The library's not closed and gone, and the utility of that square is slightly different, but we're still going to have an easy level, still be public square. People are agnostic to the tenure of it. As they walk over it, they're still going to be able to use it in the exact same way as if it was owned by the council, except the maintenance, liability, insurance, rates and taxes all sit in it. So it's actually a lesser burden, and they wouldn't be able to develop it in any way. If was developed, and through the mediation process, what we did want to have is that even to be expanded to be binding on third parties, because if the council did choose to sell that church out of the library's left, along with the land which is to be amalgamated into it, we had no way to, wouldn't be binding on the third party. So all of a sudden that town square which we provided wouldn't be able to be binding upon the third party, and then we went to say that town square still exists. So we couldn't control how that space was used. Someone could set up a big noisy carousel or something there, which isn't the spirit of what we're trying to do. So we didn't, what we were proposing would actually have the permeates to it, because it could be sold and redeveloped by anyone. So we weren't happy that actually, because we are fixated on the vision of the buying park, and the third party developer that bought the site, which isn't bound to anything, wouldn't have to provide it. So we were really worried about that, dependency of the park.
If you're able to, obviously it's a second. So, was there any discussion around reciprocal parking arrangements between visitor areas and commercial areas?
Yeah, there was, and we think that's still possible, but that would be negotiated privately. So, someone having taking out, because that'd be striking. So essentially, the people on the commercial bays be different to the people in the space or the development cards, not doing anything like that. And being able to come in, as I did last night, come and use a photocopier at work in the night time, and be able to know there's a car parking bay that's attached to it. That's a commercial decision. And trying to make that available in some of that use. But I think there'll be an ability to actually come to an agreement between the commercial users who can actually make them available to the development through an internal agreement. But I don't think we really want to do that, because that limits the use of the whole space.
Made it clear that that can't be relied upon.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for your participation. Please feel free to stay third. We will now move to presentation of heritage, and we find by Ryan Fuller and fields to the cluster.
For the commission's benefit, I'll just start off with a brief rundown of the history before going into the detail of the installation request. So on the 1st of June 2023, the Western Australian Planning Commission approved a 19-storey mixed-use development at Lot 50, St Quintin's Avenue, with 39 conditions. The site is located within the Claremont Town Centre, which is a secondary centre with notable transport links, with frontages to St Quintin's Avenue and Church Lane. It currently accommodates an existing 2-storey commercial development with associated back-grade car parking. Following the Commission's approval, in July 2023, the applicant sought a review conditions 3A and 16 at the State Administrative Tribunal. The scope of the review was expanded at the applicant's request to add conditions 2, 3B, 5, 8, 13, 14 and 29, due primarily to consequential amendments related to the primary grounds, which centred on changes to car parking arrangements and the library forecourt area. Conditions under review can be best grouped into 5 key aspects. being one, minor design changes to the approved plans, predominantly related to the basement levels. 2, changes to the approved car parking allocations. 3, changes to the approach for short stay accommodation. 4, changes to the library forecourt area. And 5, clarification on Green Star energy standards. Since the development approval was granted, as we've heard today, the town of Claremont has advanced its Claremont Town Centre Precinct Structure Plan, referred to as the Town Centre PSP, which the WAPC has recently approved. The Town Centre PSP introduces new building heights, plot ratio limits, and car parking standards for non-residential developments specific to this development. In this regard, the approved development varies from the recently approved PSP. At an approved height of 19 stories, plot ratio of 6.15, compared to the PSP's new limit of 9 stories and corresponding plot ratio of 3, which may be increased in the future through Amendment 1, albeit not to the same extent as the approved development. The PSP is also supported by a new payment in lieu plan approved by the town in late June 2023, following the Commission's initial approval. This development sets out relevant car parking contributions based on a $19,500 cost per day to support the levying cash in lieu payments towards future development, towards the future development of car parking areas on the periphery of the town centre. As we've heard, the town does not support the reconsideration request and recommending the development as a whole be refused because of the approved development exceeds these standards. They believe the WAPC should overturn its original decision and refuse the application, bringing to light provisions of Part 17 of the Planning and Development Act. I will address this key point at the outset. While legally speaking, the provisions of Part 17 would support the town's position, the issue is layered and complex. It is not just about whether you can do, but whether you should, having regard to the circumstances of the application. As outlined in the officer's report, the WAPC can reconsider the application, but should only do where the conditions under review are so closely tied to the development approval, whereby altering them would fundamentally change the development itself, or where the issuing of the approval raises a jurisdictional issue. The officer's report speaks to these issues in detail, and we say this is not the case. Conditions under review are not inextricably linked to the height or plot ratio of the development, nor do they call into question the power to approve the development to warrant revisiting the original decision as a whole. If the WAPC supports this position, the town generally agrees that the proposed changes to conditions, with the proposed changes to the conditions, except for the cash in lieu amount and methodology that is taken. The town recommends a higher contribution of $370,500 based on the town centre's PSP's new parking rates for non-residential land uses, which adopts a parking ratio rate of 1 day per 48 square metres. As we've heard today, the town's position on cash in lieu does not take into account the absence of residential visitor bays. On this point, a key aspect of the reconsideration involves condition 3A, which requires reallocating approved residential bays to address the shortage of commercial and residential visitor bays. As you just heard, the applicant's primary argument for reviewing condition 3A is based on economic impacts. They believe that having 2 residential parking bays per 2+ bedroom apartments is crucial for the development's viability. Reducing this ratio, they claim, jeopardise the project's overall success. This stance is influenced by current market conditions, including the long-term effects of COVID-19 and increased buyer expectations of luxury apartments. In seeking to increase the approved allocation of residential bays, the applicant's case heavily relies on a recent May 2024 decision, a Part 17 decision of the WAPC for number 10 to 40 Bayview Terrace, Claremont, which adopted a different parking ratio for commercial development, consistent with the then WAPC draft interim guidance document for car parking requirements for non-residential uses. This ratio applied a flat rate of 1 day per 100 square metres. Of note, the WA Planning Manual, non-residential car parking rates in Perth and Peel, the source of this flat rate, was approved by the Commission at its meeting on 9th of October 2024, which follows the drafting of this report. As part of the applicant's two-pronged approach, the application also seeks added flexibility in requiring a cash in lieu contribution for residential visitor bays, which Part 17 permits. While the officer's recommendation supports using this flat rate ratio of 1 bay per 100 square metres on the basis of Part 17 economic considerations and consistency of decision making, which serves to limit any notion of an undesirable precedent, there are differing views on one, the total number of residential visitor bays required, and two, the factors considered when exercising discretion. These issues are examined in detail in the report, but to summarise, there is a difference of opinion in that the applicant originally preferred a cash in lieu contribution of 117,000 for a shortfall of 6 residential visitor bays, which we've just heard has recently softened to 136,500 based on 7 days, whereas the officer's report recommends a higher contribution of 234,000, which equates to a shortfall of 12 days. Since the source of this figure is based on the R Codes Volume 2, the Commission has discretion to vary it, whether increasing or decreasing, having regard to the broader objectives of the R Codes, taking into account the site's town centre location and proximity to transport links. Other aspects of the review relates to design changes to the basement levels, which in part are indirectly tied to the review of car parking and motorcycle bays, the basis of Condition 3. In respect to the latter, the amended plans also reduce the number of motorcycle bays down from 54 bays to 10 bays. Although this aligns with Condition 3B, the resulting increase in residential visitor bay or parking bays, leads to a new shortfall of 5 bays. However, when you taking into account the inclusion of 39 micro-mobility bays, which provide for the storage of e-ridables, the proposed change is supported. Regarding clarification on short-term accommodation, Condition 5 and 8 of the development approval currently limits the land use residential building to 1,560 square metres, consistent with local planning scheme number 3, which imposes a maximum plot ratio of 0.8. This approach was initially preferred by the applicants, given the desire to retain flexibility by adopting a blanket approach to land uses. The applicant now seeks to restrict any short-term accommodations to stories 3, 4 and 5, which have a combined floor area of roughly 2,268 square metres. This exceeds LPS 3 plot ratio limit. However, noting the recent legislative changes, which will soon see local governments amend their respective schemes to require, amongst other things, development approval for unhosted rentable accommodation, it is recommended appropriate to limit their use to specific levels for an ongoing management perspective. Therefore, these changes are supported. Moving on to modifications to Conditions 13, 14 and 16, which primarily pertain to the library forecourt area. These arrangements have been clarified through detailed design work post-development approval. In this regard, the applicant has advised that this area requires critical stormwater infrastructure tethered to private development. As such, it is requested that Condition 13 be modified to ensure the land is kept in private ownership, as opposed to being amalgamated with the adjoining site transferred to the town as originally contemplated. To support this approach, the applicant has requested consequential amendments to Conditions 14 and 16 to require public access easement to ensure the land is openly accessible and for it to be included in the community benefits plan. The town supports this approach and it is recommended that the conditions be modified. Finally, changes to Condition 29 are requested, supported to clarify the Green Star or Green Energy Star rating applicable to the development. A similar approach has been taken for other Part 17 applications, owing to recent changes to the Green Star rating tool, which means some developments are no longer able to be registered. Importantly, the modifications are in keeping with the original approval intent and does not materially impact the proposed sustainability measures as contemplated in the original development approval. Taking into account the issues as outlined in the officer report, as summarised above, it is recommended that WAPC modify Conditions 2, 3, 5, 8, 14, 16, 29, as well as Advice Note J, delete Condition 13 and Advice Note E.
Thank you very much for that. Question members, questions in mind? Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Right, then we will move to the item, which is item 4.1. So we are considering section 31 reconsideration of development of conditions for the proposed mixed use development at 15, block 15, and 20 at the members, can I call for a read about this? Moved by Commissioner Bennett, seconded by Commissioner Brooks. Commissioner Bennett, any debate on the item?
I don't have any debate, but I did just want to make a statement around my reasons for support, Chair, if you're comfortable making that now. Thank you. And thank you to the officers for making the presentation and also for the response to the questions that I raised prior to, which were very clear. I do recognise that this development is important for the town of Claremont in bringing greater dwelling diversity and residential population into the town. And I support the review of the conditions as recommended by the officers and support the consistent application of the commercial parking rates as per the parking manual and the previous decisions recognising Claremont as a secondary centre. I also support the residential visitor parking bay variation and cash in lieu. I recognise and to Commissioner Dare's comments around parking as well, parking will be reciprocal. Parking in the centre is constrained and the PSP supports reciprocal parking and consolidated parking stations. I do not support the applicant's proposed cash in lieu amount, recognising the need for parking in the centre, although acknowledging that there is a high degree of public transport there, but also the need to invest in parking and transport infrastructure within the town, as acknowledged by the town in making their deputation. The condition modification around the library forecourt, I'm also comfortable with in making that balance between maintaining public access but also being efficient in stormwater drainage management. So overall, I'm comfortable with the recommendation as put forward by the officers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bennett. Any further comments from Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Look, I just wanted to make it quite clear the town's position that was put forward that we should actually refuse this and why I don't entertain that at this point. I do understand all of the arguments that put forward that is an option that is available to us. However, I don't see that any resident would do it, and I agree with the position that's been put forward by the department. I do also want to say that this application, even though it had been through a very long 6-year process or something, had not actually received approval to this point in time, then it would be a different story. But we are not reconsidering this as a fresh application. It's an application that's done through to an approval that exists. And for that basis, I support recommendations being put forward and don't consider a refusal as a opposition that should be entertained.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. Thank you very much. I'll just add to the comments. I agree with what has been put by commissioners. Reasons for my decision in terms of supporting the recommendations is based on the fact that this is a secondary activity centre and a site. I think that the proximity to public transport is really critical here. Excellent train station, bus station combined, including the airport line. Also acknowledging that the reconfiguration phase sought by the applicant is based on economic research, acknowledgement that though the applicant doesn't wish to pay the cash loan for residential visit phase, I do support that they require fully note that has also been supported by the Department of Transport. I agree with Commissioner Adair in that the town seeking reconsideration of the application in full does not it's not supported. I don't see that for the planning in relation to looking at the height to plot ratio and build performance as requested by the town. Neither of these reasons are linked to the conditions before the commission today. They're under consideration and they do not affect the height and plot ratio of the previously approved development. I'd also just like to note that the commission has received legal advice on this matter and has been comprehensively considered. In relation to the forecourt, I also understand the town's point about that no longer being planned, potentially freehold land. It is a balance in terms of the benefits of not having to deal with the maintenance, receiving rates, etc. And I think then in terms of having to do that stormwater drainage and the geology of the underground parking, for example, I think that this is a balanced outcome. So I'm speaking with that. Unfortunately, recommendation of those in favour. Now, given the state administrative tribunal application before us, of course, we have the matter of the claim today, but also noting that we do have a such application on a renewable energy facility at wind farm in Greenhill West, Premier and Watervale. We also have a SAT application in relation to the development at 38 40 Terrace Settlement and a SAT application in relation to place of road. Any questions in relation to the SAT? Thank you. So that takes us to urgent business. Any business? Okay, thanks for all. So in that case, I'll conclude the meeting at 2:50 p.m. and thank everyone for your attendance today.
Thank you.